Hey guys, I'm going to try to do one more. Okay, this will be 3 in one evening. I'm going to be all storied out for the next little while. I made a video about a place a little while. Welcome to True Story Sunday. I made a video about a place a little while ago. It was called Macho de Monte. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to in my life. It's this river canyon that you hike down, and I had hiked down it before when I made this video, but because I was alone and because I'd never talked to anybody else who'd done it, I didn't dare go past a certain point because it looked like it would be very difficult to come back, and nobody knew that I was down there or anything. So I decided that it would be best for me to just turn around, but I still had an awesome time. And I had been telling Gary about it. Hey man, you got to come and check out this place with me. It's amazing. And he's always kind of like, yeah, well, there's some other cool places we can go check out. So that's what we do. But he finally saw the video that I made of Macho de Monte, and he's like, hey, why don't we go there? And I was like, hey, great idea, Gary. Been trying to get you to go there for months. So we load up and we start headed to Macho de Monte. And when we get there, I realized that I've forgotten everything that I was supposed to bring. I don't have a swimming suit, and I don't have any shoes to walk in when I'm in the water, like sandals. Normally I would take my chacos on a trip like that, but I didn't have any of that stuff. So I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm going in my bare feet and my underwear. So I stripped down and we start hiking through this canyon, and it's just amazing. I mean, it could be in a movie set for an Indiana Jones type adventure movie, or a Lara Croft Tomb Raider, something, you know? Something like that. It's really so unique and beautiful and pretty easy to access because there's actually a really nice road, and there's a bridge that goes right over the top of it at one point. So it's super easy to it's not like you have to hike forever to get there. You drive there and you hike a little bit and you're in it. It's the kind of hike that requires a little bit of hiking and a little bit of swimming and a little bit of jumping off waterfalls. And it's just amazing. I mean, the place is so cool. While Gary and I were there, I had my drift inside the waterproof bag and on a monopod, so we could film some stuff. And Gary, it was his first time there. It was my second or third, so he was like, "Man, we got to film all this." He was loving it, and so he was mostly operating the camera. And we got to this section that was kind of unknown to me, and I knew that once I jumped off this waterfall, I was hiking out. I knew there was no way back up this waterfall. So I was thinking about it, and I knew it was my time in Panama was short, and I might not ever be going back there. And so I was like, I gotta do it. I just gotta do it. Screw this, I'm doing it. And I jumped off the waterfall, and I mean, I didn't know how deep it was or anything, but I just jumped off the waterfall. It's about 12 feet high, I guess, and Gary still had the camera at the top of the waterfall, and it was hard for me to hear him, but he said, because the noise of the water was so loud, you know, crashing down right next to me, he said, I'm gonna push the camera down the waterfall so it can film it going down the waterfall. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I mean, we both kind of thought that it would float back to the top. But it hit the water, and it just sunk straight to the bottom. It never popped back up for me to grab it. I mean, I was pretty close to where if it had surfaced just a little bit, I could have grabbed it. But it hit the water, and the waterfall just pushed it straight to the bottom. And so I was swimming around. I was trying to find it. Gary stayed at the top of the waterfall, and I was swimming around trying to find my camera because it's kind of important to me. You know, I use it often. But I couldn't find it, and I had no idea where it was or how deep the water was. And it had started to rain, so the water was very clear, but it had started to rain, and that made it very difficult to look from the surface down to the bottom. And Gary, I was swimming, I've started to get kind of frustrated with Gary because he stayed at the top of the waterfall. And I'm down there in my underwear and my bare feet looking for the camera, and I can't find it, and he's just kind of up there watching me. And I was like, okay, you know, I'd basically the only reason I was still looking for the camera is because I was waiting for him to jump, and he just wasn't jumping. So I was like, okay, as soon as he jumps, then we'll get out of here, because we started kind of late in the day, and it's raining now. It's gonna get dark soon. I can't do this. I had to go on this hike. I mean, if you look at it, it's just like, there's a trail. It's not like there's a trail that you walk on. You are walking through a river, and you're having to boulder over these giant stones in the way, and I was like, okay, I gotta go here. I gotta go. You could actually see me. The camera kept filming for quite some time when it went underwater, when it went off the waterfall, and you can actually see me searching for it. I'm kind of moving. You can see me going in front, but near the waterfall, and searching around with my feet, hoping that I hit something that feels like a camera. But we didn't find it, and finally I swam over to the waterfall, and I could see Gary shivering. I mean, I wasn't cold at all because I was active and I had been swimming for like half an hour, but I looked up at Gary and he was shivering. He was freezing cold. But it didn't register me that he was cold. I just thought maybe he's afraid to jump off the waterfall, so he's not doing it. And I just came to the conclusion that, okay, he's not going to jump. So I shouted up to him, "I'll meet you back at the truck," because I knew what I was up against. I knew it was going to be difficult, but I didn't know if I was about to hike 1 mile or 10. So I just started hiking, and you know, and I didn't want to do it in the dark. Was kind of the reason I finally said, "Hey Gary, I'm out of here," because I can't do this in the dark and barefooted. And I went on my way, and that's like the worst thing that you can do in a situation like that. The worst thing you can do is separate. There was just two of us. If something would have happened to me, if I would have snapped an ankle, or if he would have snapped an ankle, you know, that's the worst thing you could do is leave the group, sort of. And I was really annoyed that he wasn't jumping, because you know, it was like he wasn't coming with me. Sorry you jumped down there, but I'm not coming. And I was super annoyed by that. And I was cursing. As I was walking through down this rocky path, I actually fell a couple times really hard, because it was raining and you couldn't see where moss was growing and stuff. Everything looked the same. All the rocks looked the same. So I fell down and fell down pretty hard a couple times, but it wasn't like I was injured or anything. I just got hurt a little bit. But I remember cursing Mitch. I was like, frickin' Mitch Kerwin. If Mitch Kerwin would be here, if Mitch Kerwin was here, he'd never left me down here in my underwear and my bare feet. And Mitch and I have been through so much together. It's like, okay, here we go, and we're not gonna stop, and we're not gonna give up until both of us are home safely. That was just kind of our thing. And so I guess I take it for granted that everybody thinks like that, but apparently not everybody does. So I was a little bit, I'm still friends with Gary, but I was a little bit disappointed in him that I felt like he was leaving me down there. And I finally I made it back to the road. I don't know how long it took me. Not super long, not a super long time, maybe an hour I was hiking. Oh, I forgot one important part. Just after I turned around and I was swimming, the water wasn't very deep, but anywhere I could swim, I was swimming. And I took a couple strokes just after I parted ways with Gary, and my wedding ring fell off. It slipped off my finger. You know, I was cold, my body constricted, and my wedding ring slipped off my finger, and I was like, oh man, this is not good. I lost a camera, and now I've lost my ring, and I stayed there for like 15 minutes searching for the ring, but I just couldn't find it. And And it was getting, I had this whole thing where it was getting dark, and it was like, you know, I need that ring, but my wife will be upset with me, but I'm kind of in survival mode right here, so I just abandoned the search and continued the hike. Well, I finally made it back to the road, and my feet were just burning because I had been walking for so long with my soft gringo feet that, but I don't know, it was weird. It was weird. Happened on May 2nd, and my birthday is on May 3rd. So I'm about to turn 33 years old, and I'm so pissed off because of the situation that I'm in, and I'm having to do it alone, and I'm annoyed at Gary, but at the same time, I was so happy because I was doing this adventure, and I was thinking about, you know, how many other 33-year-old men will ever find themselves in this situation. I'm by myself. I have no idea where I'm going. I'm just walking down a river. You jump out of that waterfall, the walls on either side are just sheer cliffs. I had no idea how far I have to go. Walking through the jungle in my underwear with bare feet. I'm lost, and I was so happy. You know, I was annoyed at Gary, but I was happier being by myself because it made the situation a little bit more, you know, I felt like I had to rely more on myself. And once in a while I like that feeling. You know, it's pretty cool to look back at something and be able to say, I did that with no help from anyone else in my birthday suit, you know, or almost my birthday suit. Might as well have been in my tidy whities where they were black. But anyways, it was a really cool experience. And when I got back to the road, I started walking. I was walking right down the middle of this road, and I felt like Rambo, you know. I felt like I just conquered this thing by myself, and cars were driving past and honking at me, and I was like, do something. I just survived the jungle. What are you gonna do? Honk your horn. Honk it. I was just in this this sort of mood where I just felt like I was indestructible. And strangely enough, I got back to the car about the same time Gary did, even though I had much further to travel than he did. We arrived at the car at almost exactly the same time. There's one spot that he had a really hard time getting back over, and because of the rain had started. There was a little bit, the water level had risen a little bit, so he was going against this river on his way back up. And you can walk most of it, but there's some places there's one place especially that you have to climb up. And with more water coming over it, he had a really hard time, and he was stuck there for I don't know how long, and he kept getting to the point where he would almost had pulled himself up, and he would get knocked down. He would fall off the rock, and, like, you know, he said he felt like he was dying because he was so cold. I don't know what it was. He had stood up there at the exit to that little canyon, and there's a lot of waterfalls, so you're in the mist, and it's windy, and he was almost hypothermic. When we got to the truck, I mean, he was shivering. He was shivering violently. And so I was mad at him because he had abandoned me down there with no shoes and in my underwear. But I was kind of worried about him at the same time because I realized he was in worse shape than I was. He's like, you have no idea what I went through. And I'm like, I know exactly what you went through. I've hiked that canyon many times. You have no idea what I went through. And I asked him, finally I asked about it once he warmed up and I knew he was okay. I was like, dude, why did you not jump? I think I told him something like, dude, I never would have done that to someone, even if it was a stranger. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, I never would have left somebody down there by themselves. He goes, well, I didn't jump for two reasons. One, I thought that if the camera popped back to the surface, I would have a better vantage point from the top of the waterfall, and I'd be able to point to you where it was. and two, I didn't know how far I would have to hike if I jumped and went that way, but I knew how far it was back that way. And I said, yeah, that's my point. That's my point exactly. We didn't know if I had to hike 1 mile or 10, and you just left me down there. And you know, even if I was out hiking with a stranger, I wouldn't have just said, "Good luck, buddy. Hope you make it back to the truck sometime tonight." It just wasn't cool, and it made me think I've got to be careful about who I do these crazy things with, because you know, you want someone that would be willing to go the distance. You know, if I jump and get jacked up, I know that Mitch would jump and also and try to save me. You know, that's the kind of person that you want with you on these epic adventures. So anyways, we were both exhausted. My feet were black and blue. I had bruises all over my feet. But we went back the very next day. My wife had a shift, and so she wasn't home that night. She didn't realize that my wedding ring was missing. So we went back the very next day, and we took masks and snorkels, and we went back through there, and I went straight to where my wedding ring had fallen off. It was only about 3 feet of water, but the water was moving through that area pretty fast, and I didn't think there was even the smallest of small chances of finding that ring. But it's made out of tungsten, I think. It's very heavy. For how small it is, it's very heavy. And it just fell off my finger and stayed right where it fell. And I searched around that area for a little bit, and it was digging up rocks and trying to find it. And I looked up a little farther, and there it was, just sitting on this little sandy patch. And I was very happy. And then I swam over to right underneath the waterfall, and there the camera was. And I swam down. It's raining, so I'm gonna come back home. I swam down and snatched the camera off the bottom of the little swimming area, and this dog, come here. He's scared of the motorcycle. You're okay. Come here. Come here. I swam down, got the camera, and the waterproof bag that it was in. Drift makes this waterproof bag for the Drift Stealth. It had filled with water. It was about 25 feet deep, probably, and it had stayed there, you know, almost 24 hours. Stayed there overnight, and so I had completely written off the camera, but and when I found it, the bag was filled with water. Those sorts of devices, those waterproof bags, they're rated for a certain depth and a certain length of time it can be at that depth. So it was completely flooded, and when I opened up the camera itself to take out the SD card, water just poured out of the camera itself. So I thought, okay, that camera's no good. But I have a surprise for you. Everything that I just filmed, these last 3 True Story Sundays in a row, was all filmed with that camera that was completely filled with water for 24 hours. It was all filmed with this camera right here. So, pretty amazing. I mean, I was impressed that when I put the SD card in, all the video from that day still worked. But then I was really blown away when I realized that the camera still worked and recorded it. It acts weird. It's not. I can tell it's not 100%, you know. But it still records video just fine. It won't charge a battery, and the battery that was in it was destroyed. So if I charge the battery with my other camera, with the Drift HD, then I could put it in the Stealth and use it there. So pretty impressive. I mean, that blew me away. I could tell it acts funny. I wonder, you know, how long it's gonna last. But anyways, chalk one up for the Drift. I mean, I guess if I had a GoPro, it wouldn't have happened at all. But what a good dog. So filthy. But yeah, I was impressed by the camera. Anyways, I'm rambling, so I'm going to end this. Ride safe, travel far, do it soon, everybody. This will probably be maybe my last True Story Sunday from Panama. Definitely my last with that motorcycle. So it's kind of sad, but it's just time to move on. Sometimes it's time to move on. So that's what I'm doing. Ride safe, travel far, do it soon.